So we are back with the occult significance of the 2020s, part 11. And in this episode, we will continue to chart Pluto's movements around the 0-degree line of Aquarius and the ongoing build-up to WW3. We'll be taking a look at what this phrase is all about as we approach the now infamous 2030. World War III coming along nicely as the MSM continue to pump out headlines. They even threw in the prediction from Baba Vanga, and she's not been around for decades. Yes, so obvious, even a blind elderly lady could see it coming. Iran pretty much telegraphed the latest development. Even the MSM commented on just how much notice was given beforehand. And after this headline from part 10, again, I was thinking, here it comes. This is it. Will they finally go that step? The red heifers will be a bit past it before you know it. But they didn't do it. It's still standing. As far as I know. But we're all expecting this war now. The headlines have made sure of that. And when I saw this one, I thought, I wonder when this guy will pop up. What role is he going to play?
Maybe Bill Gates from his fund, together with Warren Buffett, will pay all the expenses. Rabbi, it's Bill. Bill and Linda here. We survived, thank God. We want to pay the expenses to your holy temple.
But he's not in the picture just yet anyway. Just plain old WW3 for now. The famous state responded when they thought the time was right. When is the right time to escalate WW3 anyway? But with Pluto on the 0-degree line and the astrological influences that Pluto has, one has to say the old as above so below seems to be almost doing its thing presently. Or is it something else? So much hypocrisy and tit for tat going on. But it seems as though all the conflict in that area is coming to a real head. Over the last 2 decades, we've been told it was for freedom and the spreading of democracy. Not for this guy, though.
We will rebuild the third temple. We will do animal sacrifices again, and God will give us the whole of Israel, all the way up to the Euphrates River and down to the Nile River. We'll have the greater Israel that we've always dreamed of, and we won't have to believe in Jesus to get it. That's what you guys are. Maybe you'll be alive. Hopefully you'll be alive to see it. But that's the truth.
And remember that US ambassador with the Temple Mount photo without Al-Aqsa in it? It's been telegraphed for a while now. Look at them all, laughing about it. You're going to start World War III, you pillocks. Put it back in. Shit, where was it? I was a bit surprised that it was escalated so early, to be honest. I thought we might see some divine intervention when the biblical Star of Jacob arrives this year. And you can find out more about that in the amazing Economist Tarot videos on this channel. Why not take a look? But in this article from this year, there's an ominous phrase in there, and a link to this article, with an interesting question as the headline. I'm not going to read through all this. Let's just highlight a familiar phrase or two. Doesn't it just seem as though prophecy is coming true, or something? Everything seems to be aligning perfectly, doesn't it? By the book, so to speak. So many signs and wonders to believe in, if you're that way inclined, of course. Does Trump understand the full picture, though? We shall wait and see. Let's hear Mizrachi again.
All the prophets spoke about days of Mashiach, what would happen in the world. 2 of the prophets spoke very, very clearly about what will happen in a time of Gog and Magog. The final disaster war that will happen in the world, it's called Gog and Magog. Zechariah, it starts in chapter 12 and goes all the way to chapter 14. It describes what would happen when Gog will arrive to the land of Israel. When exactly this war of Gog and Magog should be? In Sukkot. That the time that has the highest chance to have this war is Sukkot.
Mizrachi there, confirming the prime time for this G&M, Sukkot, which is a religious festival. The 2023 Sukkot was interesting. Look when it ended, and we all know what happened the day after. And if we break it down, it does seem pretty ominous. Let's analyse this question. We know when it's supposed to happen. Mizrachi tells us that, and the Sukkot of 2023 ended on October 6th, and the very next day this happened. This article puts the battle into perspective with this phrase, a phrase echoed very recently by Benny Boy after this happened. It's also on this coin from 2020, and as it says here, it's a prelude to the Messianic era. And there's all this about, well, I mean, what can you say? Not to mention the red heifers. Has anyone got a Bible? Yeah, Old Testament. It's all coming true, look.
On the Shabbos Chalamoid of Sukkot, we read about the war of Gog and Magog, the war of Armageddon.
Did you see last night that you want to share with the people this morning?
Prophetically, we are on the verge of the Gog-Magog war that Ezekiel described in chapters 38 and 39. This attack by Iran, who launched more than 200 missiles yesterday.
Now, interestingly, the Abarbanel in the Malbim follows that path, learns that Milchemes Gog and Magog is that Esav will convene on Yerushalayim to attack the Arabs, and they'll both basically destroy each other. And we wish both sides Hatzlacha Rabbah, and after doing that, Klal Yisrael will reign supreme.
One of the prophecies that most intrigues me in the Bible is Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39, what Bible scholars call the war of Gog and Magog. Gog, we find out, is not a personal name. It's a title, like a pharaoh or a czar. Now, he is the leader over a territory called Magog. The Magogites, the people of Magog, are the people whom the Greeks called Scythians. These are the people group who settled north of the Black and Caspian Seas in what we now call Russia and the former Soviet republics. So what we're talking about with Gog is a Russian dictator, someone who's going to oversee Russia as they begin to form an alliance with Iran and a group of other Middle Eastern countries to attack Israel, to try to destroy or annihilate Israel in the last days.
Before the end, before Mashiach eventually arrives, there's going to be a major turmoil in the world. There's going to be a lot of havoc. There's going to be a major war, where you're going to see the nations of Edom fighting the nations of Ishmael, but ultimately both attacking Israel before Mashiach comes and destroys all of Israel's enemies.
The prophet Ezekiel talks about the time when nations from the north will come against Israel, led by a prince named Gog. Most people believe that's Russia.
It does seem as though things are falling into place. Is there really some divine hand behind all this, putting all the pieces together? And as Pluto sits on that 0-degree line, we see yet another as above, so below correlation. I won't go into detail, but it seems as though a Pluto orbit of 247 to 248 years has a link to the Hebrew calendar. And as we saw in part 10, it goes even deeper, with the month of Shevat being linked to Aquarius, representing that religious group and their holy book. And don't just take my word for it. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth.
That is the power of Shevat, to transform negative into positive. And all of this is highlighted by the zodiac of the month, which is Aquarius. What is Aquarius? Aquarius in Hebrew is a dali. A dali is a bucket, a pail of water. So here we see that the concept of zodiac, which is the Aquarius of the month of Shvat, represents the idea to expound upon the Torah.
Is the as above, so below energy of Pluto, planet of transformation and destruction, really orchestrating a world war? The one foretold in this holy book as it edges into Aquarius? Or the Hebrew Shevat, which represents a religious group and their holy book? Is this correlation of the Hebrew calendar and Pluto, which sits upon the planet of time, Saturn's 0-degree line, proof that it's the as above, so below line of Baphomet, half Capricorn goat and half Aquarius human? Should we all believe in the power of the planets? I thought I'd touch briefly on the old Aleph Tav eclipse in this episode, and this story, an astrologer no less, who tragically took it all far too seriously, believing it to be a sign of the apocalypse. But this is one of the reasons why I made the videos about the eclipse of April 8th. My advice would always be, have some discernment, some perspective. Belief is the enemy of discovery. Question everything. But just regarding the eclipse video, when I demonstrated the true significance of the Aleph Tav configuration, remember all that speculation about why CERN was firing up on April 8th? CERN being the home of the so-called God particle, or the Higgs boson? Well, Peter Higgs, who gives the Higgs boson its name, sadly passed on April 8th, the Zolkeen Day of Death. But his date of birth converts to Etznab, or T-Jax, and in the Zolkeen, so heavily featured in the Apocryphalia vid, that is the X glyph. Very synchronistic. Another weird as above, so below, as Pluto sits on the 0 degree line of Aquarius. It sees Pluto's life, death and rebirth energies coming to the fore. This entry into common discourse of assisted death at the moment, it's really being somewhat trumpeted into the mainstream, particularly by, surprise surprise, an ex-MP, Matthew Parris. I'm not going into this too much, but Pluto, planet of life, death and rebirth, all things to do with mortality, entering altruistic Aquarius, is very as above, so below for me. Altruism can be said to mean when you act to promote someone else's welfare, even at a risk or cost to yourself, and Aquarius fits that description perfectly. And so does the question of assisted dying, giving up your life for the so-called greater good. A little update on my Saturn paraphernalia collection. I'm sorry to say, folks, but I have been matriculated. Look at this, they finally got me. Eyevolution.io with a Saturn magic square and an abundance of hexagons. Only kidding. Nothing to do with me. I'm not including this blasphemy in my collection, but I am including this, a recent AI droid called Figure. You've probably already seen this by now. Another hellish humanoid hybrid, but the symbol for this company is this, and it seems almost spelled out here that this is a little template for Saturn's seal. So we'll definitely update the collection with this. It's all looking so pretty. Also, I've been waiting for some kind of as above, so below of Uranus conjunct with Jupiter, as I mentioned in part 10. I can only really think of this Gaza protest at Columbia University that set up on the 17th of April, just as Jupiter was about to be conjunct on the 21st. I'll be keeping an eye on this. Could turn out very sour by all accounts. But have you got a better example of an as above, so below correlation for this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction? If you have, let me know in the comments. But that's about it from me. Please do the honours, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. And please, come on, buy me a coffee. This is thirsty work. And I shall see you in part 12.